the question is, what's the purpose of this education? And I say the purpose is not so that people can just learn names and dates. The purpose is to educate people for the open mind, to innovate, to be creative, to think of tomorrow and imagine tomorrow as much as today. Now, let me give some examples of what I mean. Here, if I can say, you can learn from some of our mistakes in Europe. You know, this crisis in Europe is continuing. And in a way, what it's done is not create the need for change in Europe, but expose the need for change. And the truth is that in Europe, we've created systems of welfare and pensions and services that since the 1940s have steadily become out of date and in need of reform. And simply because of demographics alone, where we have an aging population, the average age of people in Europe is probably, I don't know, 13, 14 years higher than the average age in Mexico. We therefore have to undergo a big process of change now. And that process of change requires new ways of working and new ways of thinking, and it requires us to take our essential values but apply them quite differently to the world today. And I think you also can learn something from our experience. So in my view, education today needs a different type of curriculum. It needs higher standards of teaching. It needs more power to parents. It needs a better use of technology. And it's important not just to have a large quantity of people being educated, it is the quality of education that will determine the success of a country today. And this quality is the key lesson around the world. So for you in Mexico, you've gone from a situation of a few million people in secondary education to many tens of millions. But you need today, as we do, to be prepared to change systems in order to access the opportunities that are there. And the same is true in business. We're in 2012 today. If you take the top 20 companies in the world today, and you compare the top 20 companies 10 years ago, in 2002, half of the companies that were in the top 20 in 2002 are no longer there. The biggest company in the world today is Apple. It wasn't even in the top 20 years ago. And yet today it's got a market capitalization bigger probably than the 6 or 7 biggest American banks put together. So when we look at the world today, the world of business, the world of work, we need to be flexible, we need to be adaptable, and we need to be prepared to change, and our education system has to prepare us for that world of change. But we also need to be open to new people. The way the world is today, people have to cooperate across boundaries of nationhood, of race, of faith, and of culture. And here we can learn from what is happening in the Middle East. 2 nights ago, at this time, I was in Jerusalem. And I was in the Notre Dame complex in Jerusalem, overlooking the Dome of the Rock, where the Muslims worship, and a short distance away, the Wailing Wall, where the Jews worship. And all over the Middle East right now, there is a struggle between people who are open-minded and who want change in their societies and their economies, and those, some of them connected with radical Islam, who want to take their countries backwards, who have a view of religion that is exclusive and pushes away people who are different. And if you look at the conflicts in the world today, a majority of those conflicts are now around views of religion and strife between people of different cultures and different faiths. Whether it's Christians being persecuted in parts of the Middle East, or Muslims being persecuted in parts of Asia. And what's really happening in the world is this. Globalization pushes people together through migration, physically, and virtually online through technology. And it means that the world today is coming closer and closer together. For example, today in Russia, 20% of the population are Muslim. 20% of the United States of America speak Spanish as their first language. When we had that great Olympics in London, London is a city today with different faiths and cultures and races all mixing together. Now, I believe that this world and this diversity is a strength, but it depends on us being prepared to advocate one very simple principle: that we treat human beings equally, whatever their race, whatever their faith, whatever their culture, whatever their gender. And that equality of each human being is the only way to make sense of a world of globalization. So I want people to be open to new ideas, but I also want them to be open to people who are different from themselves. And that is the way to achieve a world of peaceful coexistence rather than conflict. But it's urgent and it's necessary that whatever your faith, whatever your culture, whatever your race, we are all prepared to live in a society of respect, of tolerance, and of equality.